the first thing necessary to escape a prison is you have to know you're in a prison.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And so people don't, so like when are Americans going to rise up? It's like they don't know. They know the effect, they know what their life is like, but they don't know who to blame.
Mm-hmm.
So they're told to blame the Republicans, and the Republicans are said to blame it's the Democrats with their socialism and their communism, and they all work for the same capitalist oligarchy, and it's just it's the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals, and what people don't, you're not thinking about it when you're watching a Harlem Globetrotters game because it's so entertaining that they're both being paid by the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's strictly a show, and we all know the outcome. That's the same thing with Congress, the Democrats and the Republicans. People have to remember when they watch the State of the Union, they're all being paid by the same guy.
Yeah.
And the outcome is already known.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it didn't matter if it was it didn't matter if it was Barack Obama or John McCain. They got them both. It didn't matter if it was George Bush or Al Gore. They got them both.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it was Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. It mattered a little because that was like America's Brexit. And the oligarchs couldn't let the people have a voice. Yeah. And that's why they had to make sure that anybody who voted for Donald Trump would be considered off limits. Like, you're out of the cult, man. You're undermining democracy as if we have a democracy. January 6th was a coup attempt, as if the coup didn't already happen. We don't have a goddamn that's the biggest fucking lie in the world, that if you were voting for Democrats, you were voting for democracy. What you literally voted for was fascism, because the first thing they did was crush a railroad workers strike. That is the definition of fascism. So this whole idea that there's somebody else that's a fascist in the country besides the Democrats is hilarious. So, and people still think that voting for Democrats they're doing a good deed, and that's how propaganda works. You have to make some people think there's a good guy and a bad guy. It's just like the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals. They're all the same people. The outcome is known, just like with the January 6th show trial. We all knew what the outcome was going to be. And those guys were trying to commit a coup. Can you believe they used those fucking words like that? Yeah, a bunch of guys in pajama bottoms and buffalo helmets stealing the look, I'm fucking committing a coup. You know what? Your goddamn government was stolen from you decades ago by corporate America, which is why we live in an oligarchy proven by the Princeton study. Your ideas are never reflected in your legislation. Every politician serves the oligarchs, not you. When are you going to get pissed off about that? No, they have you distracted to be pissed off about a riot that happened at the Capitol with no guns.
Yeah, and the crazy part. The crazy part is you got this dude wearing a hat that he looks like he belongs to the same Buffalo club that Fred and Barney, Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble used to belong to. And I'm like, really? Are you seriously taking this guy serious? And the funny part is, whenever we talk about, how, really there needs to be an exit of both parties, the duopoly. Roger Meadows, who watches me frequently, always says that we just need to make both parties, just get rid of all political parties and just, have a direct democracy, or just have, direct representation. But the funny part is, you have some that will tell us to grow up and will tell us that, oh, well, this person introduced these type of things to the conversation and they can push this forward. Hell, I'm talking about Marianne Williamson. I'm talking about what Crystal Ball said. She said, grow up. And the thing is like, okay, and I've likened it to like this. You're telling someone to grow up is like being outside of a house that's on fire, and the people inside are screaming help. And then the fire department comes, and then they take out a water pistol, and they start pew, 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 pew at the water. And then as soon as you start screaming, saying, we need a big hose, get it out there, you have somebody with their arms crossed on it saying, you guys just need to grow up. And it's like, we're literally suffering out here. And the problem is that you have a lot of people, unfortunately, and some of them typically are part of the professional managerial class. Not all, but some. And what they do is that they have a lack of a sense of urgency. And
Of
that lack
course.
of a sense of urgency makes them think, well, all we have to do is just go this route. And then when you say it's not working, we need to go in a completely different direction, they go, just grow up. We're just going to go do it this way. But here's the thing, you have an influence of thousands of people, and you're continuously telling them to go into a direction that does not work, has not worked in the last 40 years. And so for us, it's like, no, stop. You're pushing people like a bull to the slaughter when really you should be going into the other direction.
That's been the message of my show for a couple of years, ever since, I I was hopeful for the Tulsi Gabbard campaign because she was so staunchly telling the truth about Syria, and they were smearing her the same way they smeared me over Syria, calling me an Assadist and a traitor and all this shit. It's amazing. And but there just doesn't. I would, it would be nice if there was a leader that, a lot of people ask me to run for president because right now is the time for someone who can actually appeal to the populist left and the populist right in a genuine way, not a bullshit way.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe that there isn't somebody else out there who can do it better than me. But apparently no one's stepping up. So this is what it's needed. I don't know. I can't believe there isn't another Christian Smalls out there to do this. And so, but I mean, electorally, that's what's needed. But what's really needed is someone to get people into the streets.
Yeah.
Because that's what's, and you have to shut things down, right? And if the pandemic taught workers anything, it's that they're essential. And who isn't?
Yeah.
A fucking banker, a middle manager.
Yeah.
Workers are essential. Workers, right? And so that was the time. I don't understand why workers didn't strike then. Like, that's what I couldn't believe. Like, now's your time, and you get anything you want. They're handing out $5 trillion to the oligarchy. You guys should strike to get your piece of it. And what they needed was someone like AOC or Bernie Sanders or Jamal Bowman or Rokon or somebody like that to tell them to do that. But that's never going to happen because those people serve the same people.
But Jimmy, are we beyond electoral politics at this point?
Because that's what I just said. I said we got to get what we really need is people in the street.
Yeah, because my thing is like, even still with like maybe a third party or independent run, it's like, look, I remember JFK. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Because even when somebody wants to actually do even a modicum of something in the right direction, even just a little bit, it's like, yeah, no, we got to get rid of them. And there will be powers that be will come together because we know it wasn't just some one-off person. And then look at what happened with MLK. That wasn't a one-off. That we know that was institutional power that got rid of him. We know it was institutional power that got rid of Malcolm X. We know there was institutional power that got rid of Fred Hampton. We know it was institutional power that got rid of Tupac Shakur. Like, we know it was institutional power. That reasons why people like Assata Shakur right now is, in exile in Cuba because she can't come back here to her home because they're trying to take her and put her back in chains and eventually kill her like they would do Assange, or like what they're doing to Mumia Abu-Jamal. And the thing is that whenever we talk about somebody actually running within the system, it's like, if the system doesn't work for us, why are we even going to participate in the system? I feel like it's like, if the table's not serving you, then flip that fucker over and let's go and build a new one. I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, there's nothing here for us. Let's just, it's just like, look, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, we need another 1776. This time it's just all the workers instead of the corporate people.
Yes, it's funny when the story goes that they don't want to pay a tax to the king anymore on their tea and shit, right?
Yeah.
So when they got upset enough, when they had enough of that shit,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
George Washington, he didn't write a stern letter. He picked up a rifle, started shooting motherfuckers. So that's how our country was founded. I'm not advocating for armed violence. I'm advocating for peaceful demonstrations to shut shit down, because that's what really works.
Yeah.
Although you got to say the American Revolution actually worked.
Well, I mean, didn't JFK said those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes, and America's a very armed. We have more guns than we have people. So, what's always funny is that the people who are for guns, I've gone back and forth on the gun issue.
Mm-hmm.
I liked seeing Black Panthers with guns.
Me too. Yeah.
So, like what I remember, there was a group of there was a African American group in Texas that went out one time, a couple like 5 or 6 years ago, and they were like, I think maybe it was a response to Trump or something. Maybe, I don't know what it was, but they were all like in black, and they all had had guns, and and so people were saying, "Oh, see, now they're going to pass gun control." And I go, "No, they're not. Now they're just going to kill those motherfuckers if they ever do anything. That's what they'll do." But so the gun thing is that they say we need guns to protect ourselves from not each other, but from the government, because the government's going to come take our rights. Well, the government, I don't know if they noticed, they took your rights, right? You now live in a surveillance state. You have no right to privacy and liberty. You don't even have a right to a speedy trial. They repealed the habeas corpus. So they took your rights away. When are you going to use those guns to get them back? Never. So the guns, that whole argument about to protect ourselves from the government isn't really true, because they took your rights and you didn't do shit. And that'd be one thing if you did. It'd be one thing if you used your guns to actually try to get your rights back, but you didn't. And nobody cares. Nobody cares that every email, text, and phone call is being recorded by the NSA. And it's all done under the guise of fighting terrorism. And now all they have to do is say you're a terrorist, and they can lock you up without a trial forever. It's called indefinite detention. So,
yes.
And we tortured Chelsea Manning. So whatever we do to people overseas, we're going to do to ourselves. We're doing it to ourselves. And this whole, I saw, who was it? I saw a quote the other day from, I forget who it was, but it said basically the whole world's governments, every government, is a bunch of rich businessmen working for a bunch of richer businessmen. And nobody knows how to fix it, because nobody has figured out how to oppose corporations. And that's where we're left, right? They control everything. It's all, why did we send $100 billion to Ukraine? Because we give a shit about the people of Ukraine.
No.
Because businessmen want that they want that to happen. It's about Western economic hegemony. It's about imperialism. This is all about the capital class running our military and our government. That's just like we gave the use of our military to Saudi Arabia in exchange for the petrodollar. People don't even know that. That just right there on black and white, our military is there for an economic gain. That's all it is. So what the petrodollar is 1972, I think Rick Nixon took us off the gold standard. And so he made a deal with the Saudi Arabia that if Saudi Arabia made everybody buy their oil, because Saudi Arabia is the world's biggest oil exporter. So in order to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you had to first convert your currency into American dollars and then use that to buy your oil from Saudi Arabia. So that meant everybody in the world just decided to start having a bunch of US dollars on hand in reserve. So that, because if it's used for oil, then they would also use it for other shit, almost every other thing. So that's how it became the reserve currency of the world. world, which artificially props up our dollar and our entire economy. Well, that's going
Yeah.
away. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. But what we promised them in return for that was they could use our military. Why do you think we're in Yemen helping commit a genocide? What, at the behest of Saudi Arabia? Why do you think we gave a fuck about Syria? What do you think? All this shit. I mean, why do you think we're in bed with Al Qaeda in Syria and Al Nusra?
Yeah.
It's all. It's again. The military is just there for the capitalist class to go steal shit from poor countries. And if they're not a poor country, we'll blow up a pipeline to try to fuck over their economy, which is exactly what the United States did. We blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that was separating Russia from Germany. So what we've always been afraid of, German technology and capital coming together with Russia's manpower and fossil fuels. And so we had to stop that because that would create an economic engine that would overwhelm the West. And so what we did was we blew up their pipeline, and we're trying to fuck all that shit up. So now we're trying to sell more liquefied natural gas to Europe. Russia sold 40% of their energy comes from Russia, Europe. And so now the leaders of Europe are so weak. It is amazing how but because they're all promised jobs, there's the WEF. It's the overwhelming capitalists, the same people who took out JFK, RFK, Malcolm X, and MLK. Those same people, they're all afraid of them. Why do you think Zelensky, who ran on uniting his country and peace, turned into what he's turned into, a guy banning opposition newspapers, banning the Russian language, and ramping up a war effort? Why? Because they threatened to kill him. The right-wing Nazis and NATO. He knows what's going to happen to him if he doesn't do their bidding, but what he doesn't know is what's going to happen to him when they don't need him anymore. Just like when we didn't need Muammar Gaddafi anymore and stuff like that. So anyway, that was a long sermon. I'm sorry. I got